To kick off adoption, to kick off some of the exciting things we're going to be seeing in the Avalanche ecosystem, really excited to welcome our good friend, Santiago Santos.
Hi. Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I know there's some delays with the trains. You can never have a crypto conference and never be network congestion, but nonetheless, thanks everyone for joining. So today, I want to talk about my new project, Inversion. And it's all going to be centered around a question that I've asked myself over the last 12 years that I've been in crypto, which is, if this truly is transformational technology, why don't we have more users on chain? And I think over the last 5 years, we could have pointed to a variety of factors. We had the technology wasn't ready. Then we had UX and UI issues. And then we had a regulatory environment. And so across those three different components, I think it slowed down the adoption of this technology. And that's normal. If you look at the internet, in earnest, it took 20 years to get to where we are today. But I think what is most exciting right now at this point in this industry is that I believe we are very much ready to have 1 billion users on chain, if not more. The technology is ready, and in large part, you understand that by having built an Avalanche. There's a high throughput blockchain, and we have killer products like stablecoins. And so the question again is, why don't we have more users? And that's the conversation that I think I want to have today with you guys. So naturally, when you go out to the real world and you try to explain how wonderful this technology is, I think that there's still a lot of noise, right? You have that, or that, or that. And so, we all have these conversations with family members, and they're difficult. And, I think it's not too dissimilar from the internet. I think you could have looked back and studied history, and a lot of people were discounting the effects of the internet. In 2001, you had the dot-com crash, and people were skeptical of the internet. And there's a great interview where Bill Gates is on a talk show in New York, and people are laughing him out of the room. And he said, no, the internet is going to be the most transformational thing that is going to happen. And people didn't believe him. And now we have smartphones, and we can't live without them. And so I think when people naturally look at crypto, they say, we've been building for the last decade plus, and we don't have more than 30, 60 million users. There's really just 10 people actively leveraging on chain. This is going nowhere. And I think again, I do think that we're at a very key inflection point where this is not going to take another 12 years to get to the scale that I think we all want, which is over 1 billion users on chain. And so it's just a constant reminder of what's really happening under the hood. And sometimes there are decades when nothing happens, and then there are very singular moments where there's a lot that happens. And I think a lot has happened since November of last year. You have Stripe acquiring Bridge and really going in on stablecoins. Stripe has so much distribution, is one of the leading fintechs, it's a founder-led organization, and they sort of realize that for them, they can't graduate out of the current system unless they use something like stablecoins. The financial system predates the internet, and so we've all kind of worked around the constraint of that system, but you need to have something like crypto to truly have a step function improvement, and so they realize that, and that's going to have a massive impact in how this gets adopted. You have Helium, which is a protocol for any telco experts out there, fantastic from a coordination standpoint, allowing telcos to cut costs by 75%. You have, obviously, MapleStory, which is perhaps the first publicly traded company to launch a token. It's a game that's been around for 20 years. It has 100 million users. It launched an Avalanche, and it's enhancing the user experience in meaningful ways. You have obviously BlackRock, which is a financial behemoth, going in on treasuries and tapping into capital markets on chain. So again, the overlooked truth in all of this is that, and this is something that we believe at Inversion deeply, is every business will use crypto. In the same way that 20 years ago, we were making this distinction of there's an internet business and then there's a non-internet business. Well, the reality is that every business today uses the internet to stay competitive. And that's the same arc that we're going to have in this industry. I'll say it again, every business will use crypto in one way, shape, or form to remain competitive, and that will happen over the next 5, 10 years. And so, but again, I don't want to wait 12 years. I think we can do it today. And that's really the mission that we have at Inversion, which is we want to go and we will acquire a traditional business and transform it with crypto rails. Because I think that the issue that we have in crypto today is that it's not relatable to anyone. They all point to it and say it's only Bitcoin and meme coins, it's a casino. And I just got tired of that. And so what I want to do is you buy a traditional business, you make it vastly more efficient, and at that point, anyone looking outside in says, wait a minute, you took a business that had a 5% EBITDA margin and you took it to 15. Surely you must have done AI to do that. And the answer is going to be, no, I just did one thing. I replaced old infrastructure and used crypto rails to do that. And I think if we do that, it has so much impact, I think, for the industry where we're finally taken seriously, because you can point to something and say, this is what we've been telling you all along. Crypto is the settlement layer of the internet. It's an expansion pack of what the internet allows us to do, transferring value in a faster, better, cheaper way. So what does this all mean concretely? So over the last 4 years, I've really spent a lot of time thinking about where can we do this today with the least amount of risk. There's a huge opportunity that we see to acquire telco businesses and lower costs. With Deepin, we turn a telco asset into a bank. Why a telco? Because you live with the customer 24/7. If you want to onboard 1 billion users, it's with mobile. And telco assets are really underproductive. There's really no reason why your mobile carrier can't be your bank when money's truly digital. And we believe that the opportunity to on-ramp people to transformational technology is not to try to convince them to come and create, a wallet and set up their own keys. It's really to go meet them where they are and where they're living 24/7. So by acquiring a mobile company at a great price, we're looking at an acquisition with 25 million users. At that point, we believe that we can onboard those users to use stable coins. I grew up in Mexico. I can tell you everyone in Mexico wants to hold dollars in a bank account. And so the question is, why haven't they gone to, and why aren't they using stable coins? And you do have some adoption of stable coins. The problem is that every single user that comes to this industry goes through an exchange. And the reality is, not when you go to an exchange, when you go to Vegas, you're not thinking about your life savings or buying a life insurance product. And so naturally, we have a broken customer acquisition funnel as an industry. We're not going to onboard 1 billion users through an exchange. It's just unrealistic. So why? Because going back to that slide, we have a president that launches a meme coin. You have 1 million users register an account on an exchange, and then they buy Trump coin at $75, and then they wake up on Monday and Trump is at $15, and they hate this industry, and they leave. And I think we can do better than that. I think we are selling ourselves short as an industry if we are onboarding users through the casino. And I don't have a problem with exchanges. I think they serve their own purpose, and they've done fantastic work. But again, through this approach, crypto is invisible. The user never sees, never feels the crypto. They're, at the end of the day, using a mobile plan that is competitive. It is feature parity with their AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone plan. But we can do it better because we cut costs on the back end with Deepin. Not only that, that user then has access to credit and financial products in a faster, better, cheaper way. And so that's really the activation funnel that we pretend to do in a better way and at scale. And so we're launching as an Avalanche L1. Why do we need an L1 for this strategy? And I think we take the position that blockchains are really good economic systems to capture value, perhaps in the same way that MapleStory was thinking about doing this when they launched their own L1. So Inversion, we acquire businesses, we bring them on chain, we make them more efficient. That has value creation at the company level, that obviously has value creation at the chain level. We have a bunch of activity that then supports more and more acquisitions, and that's sort of the flywheel that gets going. And so by doing this, I think this is our view is that our best way to contribute to the crypto economy, the crypto industry as a whole, is to solve what we think is the biggest problem that we have right now, which is it's not tech. We have high throughput blockchains. We have great products. You guys are fantastic builders. We've been on this journey over the last 12 plus years of really building 0 to 1 products. What we need to do now is focus on go to market and bringing users, not selling them an ideology, not selling them on trying to do anything different than what they already do today, but more so meeting them where they are and telling them in a very unsuspecting way of turning businesses into crypto enabled. And so again, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, most businesses were not using the internet. Every business today uses the internet. And we think that that can take another 12 years to happen. But at Inversion, we believe we can do it today, and we want to do it today. And the only way to do that really is to acquire a business and do this transformation ourselves. Because trying to convince maybe like you guys, when you call a business, you call a CEO and says, listen, I built this great crypto product. And they're like, yeah, well, come back to me when someone else does it. And again, we think that we can do this today. In order to do that, we need to have a private equity style of acquiring businesses and taking control. And so that's really it. I wanted to keep it brief. I wanted to set the tone, the excitement, which, I've been in this industry since 2012. And honestly, if I were to summarize why I'm starting Inversion, is because I got tired of going to Thanksgiving dinners and trying to explain to people that crypto was very much a very powerful technology. And anyone out there being critical of the industry because it's only a casino, or because the tech's not ready, or because the UI UX is not ready, is simply not paying attention. But you guys are here, you're paying attention. And so we hope that at Inversion we can contribute to the broader ecosystem. I think in a version where we onboard 100 million users, and I think we can do that in the first year or two, everyone benefits. Because if you built a great product, you best believe that that activity is going to be routed to your product or your protocol. And I think in a world where we just have 100, 200, a billion users is a fundamentally better world, because you just believe that users really benefit from this technology. And I think not all of them will appreciate the decentralization aspect or the ideology, but I do think that they will feel the impact of this technology. So again, most people can't explain how an airplane works, how a bicycle, they can't even draw a bicycle, but like great technology just gets used because it is fundamentally faster, better, and cheaper. And I think we are at that point in the industry that if you're, again, paying attention, you truly believe that. And so that's where we come from. So that's really it. You can follow us on X. You can go to our website. We're hiring a bunch of people. We're going to need a lot of help in this journey. But I know we have 5 minutes left, so if anyone wants to ask questions, feel free. Yep.
Santi, how are you selecting businesses? What's the
Handle 5.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we select businesses? It's a great question. So again, we invert and we say, okay, what businesses have systemic friction? So if you're any merchant, you have 2 to 4% payment processing fees. Some businesses have chargebacks. So naturally, those industries are interesting to us. Telco is very interesting because we, again, the sort of the prompt is, what business can I buy that has a large captive user base? And again, it all comes down to unit economics. It's like, how can I buy a really large user base at the best price possible? And so the telco businesses that we look at don't own infrastructure. They're asset-light telcos. We're much focused on Latin America. And so we can buy these businesses for 3 to 4 times EBITDA and convert them into a bank that trades at 20 times. So that's really the arbitrage that we're looking at. Prices, we're really focused on buying large businesses, not small ones, with really big user bases. Because again, if we buy, for instance, this business has 25 million users. And we have 30 to 60 million actives in crypto today. So one acquisition, we become the largest chain. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Santi. You have a prevalent voice in the industry and have been pretty outspoken at times around, the likes of Ethereum and Solana. Curious why at the end of the day you ended up choosing to launch Inversion on Avalanche.
Yeah, funny enough, like I don't have a financial position or didn't have a financial position in Avalanche. I've invested early investor in Ethereum, early investor in Solana, most L2s. And so when people say, "Oh, you must have chosen Avalanche because you have a big bag," so I was like, "Well, actually, quite the opposite." Ran an RFP over the last 3 months, started in November, and there's like 3 different, look, every builder makes different trade-offs. Like what we're doing is uniquely suited. I think the Avalanche architecture for us makes sense. That might not be true for other builders, but I'll tell you what mattered to us. One, obviously high throughput. And you need to have certainty that if you're going to onboard these users, you can actually support them, and stablecoin transfers are cheap. And so I think obviously you have a lot of proof points in Avalanche, as you have in other ecosystems, but in Avalanche it's high throughput, it's EVM compatible. So when I go talk to Aves of the world, and I think I see Stani somewhere around there, you can port over a lot of the apps so that you can have some of these killer use cases. If we're going to offer our users yield-bearing stablecoins, well, I want to have a robust DeFi ecosystem, so it's EVM compatible, and also sovereign block space is really important for us. I don't want to compete for block space and block inclusion. I don't want noisy activity. Like, of course, it's like a permissionless environment. Anyone can deploy on our chain, but there is some powerful mechanism there where it's like we want to be really intentional in the products and services, because for us the KPI is more users and extreme value to the user. And so having sovereign block space just gives me more comfort that if we onboard these users, we're not going to have to, it's not going to be overly taxing for us. And I guess the fourth point is from a business development standpoint, we're very much focused on acquiring real businesses. And I think Avalanche far and away has the best BD team out there in the industry, and it's very aligned. And just shout out to like Morgan, John, Luigi, because they've been phenomenal partners in the journey. So, it matters when you go talk to like a large business and you tell them, listen, we're going to acquire the business, we're going to bring it on chain. This is how. I mean, it helps that like someone like MapleStory has done it, or Deloitte, or the KKRs of the world have done it. It's just it truly does matter. But also the language that we speak when we think about working very closely, and we will be with a team, because we're going to have to pioneer some things. Maybe we break some things as we scale. But we plan to very much contribute back to the Avalanche ecosystem from a development standpoint as we go, build tools, the client said, and something, and so build real tech and bring it back to the Avalanche ecosystem, because again, we're just singularly focused on growing the pie. Like, how do we onboard 1 billion, 2 billion users? And I think if we do this well, other companies like MapleStories of the world want to come on and do the same. So really I was way back in the day really excited about what Cosmos was building. I think of Avalanche as a better architecture with a real good BD to like truly execute on that. And so yeah, across those different, there's others, but like fundamentally those 3 were super important for us. Yeah. Well, I think we're out of time. Thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate the time. Hope you have a great conference.